I just opened up a pottery studio at 27 years old in San Diego, so let me give you a tour of the space and share with you 3 tips on what it's like to be a pottery studio owner. Right when you walk through the door, this is the room you're going to see, and it is the main room, my favorite spot out of the entire studio. I'm just in love with all the plants and the shelves, and honestly, the type of wheel we have. The main thing that I want people to take away from the studio is that it's comfy and it's clean. What you'll notice is that we have a whole bunch of different shelves. So within the actual main room, there are 7 shelves, and the main ones are right behind me. Every single column is going to be a different class. So the very first one is our Monday class, the second one is our Tuesday, 3rd and 4th are our Wednesday 5-week classes. So 5-week classes get their own column versus members have their own column at a different part of the studio for them to keep their pieces safe. Towards the end of this entire wall of shelves is going to be our pickup station and also work from instructors and myself. Right behind me, close to the door, is going to be our pickup station. So every single bag is going to be a one-time class. Meanwhile, all of the boxes down here are the dinnerware 5-week classes because the plate could not fit in a bag, and we want to make sure that people are going home with their pieces in a safe manner versus accidentally breaking them on their way home. So when it comes to this section over here, I love having a sample of the dinnerware pieces that students will be able to make in the 5-week dinnerware class. So they make 2 plates, 2 cups, and 2 bowls, and I just love having these as samples. And when it comes to the glazing portion, they can see that they can do a little bit more fun things with the actual glazing versus just doing a full dip on there. Once you walk in through the main door, there is a bench and all these sides for people to leave all of their belongings. And right here we have our member shelf, which we just brought in, so they have space. It's a little bit bare right now, but the members are coming in shortly and they're gonna fill up real quick. So that's the main part of the entire main room. Then we go on to the back room. Now the back room is not as cute as the front, especially once we start getting towards the sink, but it's a back room. There's literally not much that we can do to it. But the main thing is the glazing wall and then the instructor shelf. So the bottom 2 shelves are from one instructor, the next 2 are mine. We're doing a lot more back of house keep up things. So we're having to share not just our space for personal use, but also to keep up with all of the one-time classes when it comes to trimming and glazing and just having things ready for them to be bagged up and then ready to go. So this gets very chaotic very easily. It will be completely filled with pieces and then it can be completely empty. And on to my least favorite but the best part of the studio, which is the double sink. We actually started off with just a single sink, and once we added that 7th wheel, we realized that we had to get a double because it was taking far too long for students to clean up their entire station. Even though we would use massive sponges to sponge everything down and then just do a final rinse, it was still taking a little bit too long. So we finally got the double sink, we got a bigger clay trap, and it's actually gone a lot smoother now. But like I said, this is my least favorite because it's the part that tends to be the dirtiest and stays dirty. And there's just basically no plants. I feel like I need to hang something right here so it brings a little bit more life to it. But it is what it is right now. So even though we do have all of the different dips over at the main room, we have a shelf that has all the brush-ons and the stroke and coat. And then right below the shelf is going to be our wedging table that holds all of our clay at the bottom, which we offer 2 different types of clays here. The first one is that Aardvark B mixed with sand, and then the second one is the Laguna speckled buff. Aside from the wedging table, we have this other table, which is where the slab mini roller is living at, which is actually my mom's. So thanks to her for being generous and letting us borrow it. And right below that is a junk drawer, and it's all of our reclaim, which we're drowning in speckled buff reclaim right now because speckled buff is the only clay that the dinnerware class will use since it's better at holding the structure of the plates and it won't warp as easily. But then every other class has the option between the speckled or the B-mix. So the B-mix is fine. The speckled is literally making us drown in reclaim right now. Now this portion of the studio is the one that I want to use a little bit more, and it's the portion that everybody is shocked about and really elevates the space in a way. But it's especially because I have an espresso machine right here in the studio. Before I went into full-time ceramics, I was doing part-time, almost full-time coffee, and I just couldn't give up my barista era, so I brought a Marzocco over and I just make myself some coffee whenever I really need it. But the goal is to ultimately offer coffee to members. Now we made it on over to my favorite part of the entire studio, which is this wheel right here. Understandable, that's a little bit hard to see. But the reason why I love this specific wheel is because one, the fan is right here, so during the summer it has a nice cool breeze to it because we're in an old building with no AC, and I'm also by the window, so there's a lot of natural light. The other reason why I love this specific corner is because when I'm throwing and I'm facing this way, I'm able to see all the shelves and all the plants, and it just has like a really nice view from this seat specifically. So when I'm working in here by myself, I opt in for this versus the actual teaching wheel. The other thing I love about all of these wheels is that none of them were bought brand new. Every single wheel has been bought secondhand from Facebook Marketplace, and I've actually driven hours to get these wheels. I want every single wheel to be the exact same one, so I've been pretty patient in how many I add on at a time. If I see it on Facebook Marketplace and it's for a good price, then I immediately go get it. I'm down in San Diego, so I've gone to National City, Temecula, Orange County, LA, Hollywood, just so many different places. The furthest one was for sure Hollywood versus the one from LA. The girl brought it down for me because she was actually in town that weekend, so it worked out, but that was the one that I paid the most for, and I had to do a little bit of electrical work on it. So the wheels that I have actually brought into the studio have ranged from $350 all the way to $750 when they retail at about $1,200. That's essentially an entire overview of the pottery studio here in North Park. So let's talk about how this even became a thing in the first place. Around March, I was going through a lot of transition in my life, so I thought, if I'm dreaming big, what would that look like? That ultimately meant me doing ceramics full-time to a whole new degree. I had told God that I did not want to open up a studio, and then immediately when I said that, I realized that I was going to open up a studio. Mid-March, I got the idea, I had the conversation with my mom, and then 1 week later, as I was looking at spaces, just because I was bored, I wasn't taking it all that seriously, I found this specific unit. Now, the last week of March is when I was able to come in, view the space, and it actually seemed a lot more doable than what I had thought. Mind you, I am not a responsible adult in the way where I don't have a lot of responsibilities on me. I still live at home, I paid off my car, I don't have any student loan debt, I don't have credit card debt. So the amount of responsibility that is on me, especially in a financial aspect, is like none. Taking on the studio, even though the rent was very, very like well priced, especially for being in North Park, scared me a little bit, and it for sure got me to be very, very anxious. But I knew that this was the next step and this is where God wanted me, and if God wanted me here, he was gonna make it happen, and it happened. So going from God, I don't want to open to a studio, to then 2 weeks later, me having keys into this space was just crazy. Mind you, at the time, I only had 3 professional wheels because I had bought 2 wheels while I was in conversation about the space, and I thought, if I don't get it, I can just put it in storage and actually work towards getting a different spot to open up a studio. But I literally started with the bare minimum, which is the first lesson of all of this. You don't have to be fully prepared in order to start something. If I had waited until I felt more secure in my decision, or if I had waited until I had all the shelves and all the wheels that I needed, or that more I wanted, not needed, but more that I wanted, I would not even have the space right now. And the only reason I say that is because the only way I've been able to actually buy all of these shelves and get all of these wheels and have all the supplies I needed to sustain this business is if I had started the business. I don't think I'd be able to have enough money within the year to buy everything all at once. It started little by little. I even asked one of my friends to send me some of the tools that she makes and she sells to potters to provide a little bit of that extra fun for our members. Now, when I started, I had 2 members and I had 3 classes, and every single class offered 4 spaces. Now we have 4 5-week classes, and each one has 7 students in them. I have a date night for 6 people, and then I have 2 days where I offer intro classes with the capacity of 7 students per class. Crazy. And then we also have membership, and we currently have 4 members enrolled. Huge difference from when I started in April to where we're at now at the end of July, but it wouldn't have been possible unless I actually just went for it. The door is open. I was able to go and try this out, but if I had let fear hold me back, this wouldn't be possible at all. The most I've ever made in my entire life has been through this business. Even though there are a bunch of expenses, it still holds the truth that I've never had the most amount of income like I do right now. The second lesson I learned in all of this is that you need to have multiple incomes in order to do this full time. Before I started a studio, I was doing a lot of mass production in order to fulfill retail sales online. Over the holidays, I did very well, but then after the holidays, it slowed down a bit because people are trying to save money. But I realized that even though the sales were low online, it didn't mean that I couldn't open up a pottery studio, because at the start of the year, everyone has New Year's resolutions and everybody wants to start a new hobby. So opening a pottery studio could kind of fill up that gap in the side where retail isn't really doing. Now, I'm not saying go open up a studio and it's going to solve all your problems. What I'm saying is that it made sense for me. This could translate for you in the ways of go and start looking for a teaching job at a studio, if you're able to do that within the place that you live. Because I know some of us live in more rural areas and there aren't as many pottery studios, versus I live in San Diego and there's pottery studios all over the place, at least within the downtown, the coastline. Once you start going inland, there isn't many pottery studios. So I understand that. But it's more of just like challenging yourself to think, how can I make multiple revenues of income versus just sticking to one? Because at some point that one is going to be at a low and slow season, and other times it's going to be peaking and you're going to have a lot of work. But also just think outside the box. Although I was getting a good amount of income in selling online and then doing these classes, I also started reaching out to Airbnbs and asking if they would do a trade of where I would give them dinnerware or other pottery pieces in return for one night stay. This is kind of combining the two realms of doing ceramics and traveling that I really enjoy, and kind of merging it together while thinking outside the box. And as I've shared this idea with other potters, they've realized like, wait, that's actually a great idea. Just kind of think, well, what is it that you love? What would you want to combine? And kind of find ways to be able to make that happen. For me personally, the way that my income comes in is through selling online on Etsy. Then obviously my website as well, even though there isn't much traffic there. That's something still to work on. Bring classes here. And I'm also doing markets, which are honestly my least favorite because they're not very promising and there's a lot of components that depend on others versus yourself. The last lesson I learned is to not be scared to ask for help. I've never opened up a pottery studio. I don't know other people that would be willing to help me out that has opened up a pottery studio. I worked in 2 previous studios and both of those individuals have moved across country. So even though I was able to ask questions and they were very encouraging and they really let me know that I had the skill set to do this and that I was in a great location to do this. Like even aside from that, it's the fact that they didn't see me as competition, but instead they were very encouraging. Like that alone really helped me push myself to be able to do it. And then there's the part where you have people in your life that are able to physically help you out with the labor of starting up a pottery studio. Now here's the thing about my studio. One, it's in an old building in a suburb that has really bad parking. However, the worst part has been the stairs. We're on the 2nd floor of the building and there's no elevator. So having to carry the wheels in here, having to bring in all the equipment to have wedging tables and shelves, and just bringing in the clay has been so annoying, but it's honestly not the worst thing ever. And I can't imagine myself doing this all by myself. Like there's basically 80% of the work that's been done in here, I couldn't have done it on my own. And even just on the more business side of things, I don't know any business owners or anyone in my family that has started their own business. I've had to figure out so much on my own, but it's being able to ask questions and really use online as a resource and just not be scared of going for something that you have no idea on how to do. You're gonna figure out as you go, and if you have the help that you need in the way of just someone being willing and available, that's gonna make the process so much easier. Not just that, but not having the fear to ask for help is gonna be a big deal. The majority of the people that helped me out, I would never have asked them to help me out, but because they knew what I was up to, they were more than willing to help out and they approached me. If I had known that they would have said yes and they would want to help, then yeah, I would have gone out and reached out for help. But it just comes to show that people are more willing than you might think. All it takes is an ask, and if they say no, then you have your answer and you're able to move on and ask somebody else for help or look somewhere else. For example, I already know that when I move out of this space and move into a bigger unit, I'm not gonna use my parents as a resource to help me move everything because it was just so much work. Instead, I'm gonna opt in to have some movers, because although it is going to be a financial hit, I just prefer it to be a financial hit versus a physical hit on me and my family. You have to know where your money needs to be put into place and where your physical labor is going to be put into place. So it's finding a good balance between the two. If you have any more questions on what it's like to be a full-time ceramicist and a business owner, please let me know. I'd love to answer them. But for now, I hope you keep on creating and connecting.